Welcome to our first session on the basics of using SKU pricing within the Expivi platform. My name is Gijs Gijos and I will be your host today. Let's get started. The topics that we will be covering today include what exactly is SKU pricing, the benefits of using SKU pricing in comparison to attribute pricing, in which situations can SKU pricing be applied, actually applying SKU pricing, and lastly, a summary and some minor features. After all this information, you should be ready to execute the assignment provided along with this informational video. What is SKU pricing? As you might already know, SKU pricing stands for Stock Keeping Unit Pricing. SKUs are widely used by companies to keep track of their inventory and define prices. We can take advantage of this already existing information and implement a smart way to link the data from the client to the configurator. The basic concept of SKU pricing is setting up nodes within your hierarchy to which prices can be attached within the backend. It is a method of applying a price system within your hierarchy in order to tackle more complex pricing within your product configurators. What are the benefits of using SKU pricing in comparison to attribute pricing? As I already pointed out, using SKU pricing, you will be able to tackle more complex pricing and give you a more flexible system that allows for more compatibility overall. But what exactly am I talking about? One of the big pros is bulk uploading and updating prices. Say you want to monthly update the prices within your product configurator. You will be able to do that a lot faster in comparison to using attribute pricing. In order to give you an idea of what steps you need to take in order to update attribute pricing, I have prepared a product that shows you a few options in which prices for two currencies have been defined. If you look at these options, you notice a price attached. If you edit these options, you can see that two locales have been set up, and you can each redefine a price accordingly. Hit save, and then again save. As you notice, updating these prices one by one is a rather slow process. Not to say that this price method isn't workable, but as you can imagine, updating 100 or more options is a lot of work. If you are creating a project which includes a lot of price data, attribute pricing is still an option. However, keep in mind that updating your prices might take a while. During this session, I will show you how fast you will be able to update your prices using SKU pricing. Furthermore, this price method allows you to base your prices on a selection of multiple options. This means that if various options influence each other, this will be reflected in the final price. For example, if at category option A is being selected, while in the next category option B is selected, you will be able to base the price on these two variables combined instead of basing an add price on each of the individual options. As well as basing prices according to a combination of selected options, you will also be able to include material options. This makes for an even more flexible pricing system. Which situations are suitable for using SKU pricing? These include situations in which your prices are based on individual components, and if your product requires multiple variables in order to define a price, as well as a situation in which a client or integration partner wants to refer to a specific SKU defined within the hierarchy. This is useful if clients want to link their order created within the integrated platform to directly transfer all SKU data over to, for example, a production line. As you can see in the example shown, this chair consists out of multiple components, thus multiple SKUs. Imagine this client wants to update prices for a certain specific component. You will be able to do this much faster and much more efficiently using SKU pricing. This example shows the hierarchy in which SKUs are defined based on the selected options. So in this example, if at type 1 subtype A is being selected in combination with size large, the SKU 1AL is being defined. So this basically means that this SKU is representing all the selected options, and afterwards you will be able to attach a price to those. So this next slide shows you an example of a product configurator that has been created by Expivi. Within this product, certain SKUs have been defined based on the selected options. After the product has been set up within Expivi, their integration partner implemented a function in which a specific SKU is being detected, allowing for additional information to be shown based on that SKU. An important thing to mention is that the extra information shown was not implemented by Expivi, but defining the specific SKU based per selection of attributes made showing this extra information possible. This is also achieved by using SKU pricing. So right now we are applying SKU pricing ourselves in order to gain some practical knowledge. So 3 main tasks are to be executed in order to use SKU pricing. So first off, we start off with placing the appropriate nodes within the hierarchy in order to define SKUs. Afterwards, we will be taking a look at creating or converting client pricing sheets, and afterwards setting up the price matrix within Expivi. Placing SKU nodes within the hierarchy. An SKU node is the same type of group or object that you would use to define categories and options, but instead uses a different naming convention. The naming convention for this is part underscore the name of the SKU and underscore E to close it off. Try to avoid using special characters in the SKU name if you still have influence over the SKU names. Also be aware of using underscore as separators in the SKU name, since you might unintentionally use the suffix underscore E. Typically, the SKU node or group is placed directly beneath options or inside mat groups if the material choice is part of the SKU. You should always place geometry inside the SKU node. If there is no geometry available because the SKU is placed in an atypical location, still create a small cube or any other piece of geometry to populate this node. Later on, you can assign a fully transparent material to this cube or place it somewhere within the scene where it should always be out of sight. Be careful not to place it very far off in the distance, since this will influence the bounding box of your exported file and might negatively impact the accuracy of the 3D model during the importing process. Just a quick mention, it is possible to have multiple SKUs within the same option or material group, as long as each node contains some kind of geometry. Within the file provided alongside this video, the SKUs have already been defined. With their geometry placed underneath. Next up, we will be looking at creating or converting client price sheets into a format that is usable within Expivi. You can use any type of spreadsheet software to create the price sheet, as long as you are able to export the data in CSV format. The goal of a spreadsheet is to have a list of both the SKUs and their corresponding prices. You should have a single column for the list of SKUs and another column dedicated to the prices. If you have not organized the file into only 2 columns, the file must be imported multiple times to extract all the data. Even if it takes some time to reorganize the price sheet, it will pay off when you get to the stage of importing it into Expivi. Expivi will try to use pattern matching to search the price matrix for the exact SKU name that matches the SKU within your hierarchy. For this reason, it is very important to make sure that the spreadsheet, and therefore the price matrix, is clean from any formatting errors or difficult or illegal characters. A good example of this are spaces. These can be easily overlooked, especially at the end of an SKU name. But the pattern matching query will still check the 3D hierarchy if the spaces are present. So as you can see in the example I showed earlier, these SKUs that are being defined within your hierarchy are identical to the ones defined within Google Sheets in this example. And you can already see that the SKUs defined over here have a price in the column next to it in the same row. So for example, if I choose a cocktail glass, the base price of 12 will be added on top. So now that we have completed the hierarchy in which the SKUs are being defined, and we have created the price sheet on which prices are attached to those SKUs, we can start merging those two inside the Expivi backend. So at this stage, we've completed setting up the hierarchy and preparing the price sheet. Three main tasks are to be executed in order to utilize SKU pricing. First off, we will be creating a price group and a class within Expivi. We're going to link that class up to the product and the price group. And after that, we're going to upload the price sheet into the price group in order for the prices to show up correspondingly to which SKU is being active. Just a side note, as you can see from the visual on the right hand side, you are able to link one price group up to multiple products. In this case, we will only be connecting a price group onto one product, but it's possible to do it with multiple products. So as you can see here, I imported the FBX file that was provided alongside the assignment. And all I did was added some lights, some cameras with some constraints, and adjusted the material settings in order to make it look a bit nice. But as you can see over here, there are no prices implemented yet. So if I change some of these options, you may notice that this is still 0.00. Creating a price group. On the left hand side of the screen, click the second icon from the bottom called Site and choose for Price Matrix. Here you will be presented with a list of all the different price groups. To create a new one, click Add on the top right corner of the screen and give your price group a descriptive name. Next up, we will be able to assign a class to the price group. We can choose from the classes that already are defined, or we can add a new one. Give the class a descriptive name, and we can leave the type at catalog for now. If you now toggle on the newly created price class and assign it to the price group and hit save. Next up, we will also be linking the class to the product. If we move over to catalog, then assign the product, then move over to classes, we can add the new class into here. And hit save. To finish the SKU setup, we need to import the prices that we have prepared within our price sheet. If we move over to the price matrix, select the price group that we have just created and linked to the product, hit import CSV, and then look up the price sheet. After the file is uploaded, you will be presented with a new menu where we can tweak a few things about the way the data is actually imported into the price group. The thousand and cent delimiters should only be changed if the formatting of the numbers in the spreadsheet does not match the current selected delimiter characters. The field currency dropdown is very important since it allows you to define for which locale or currency the prices should be imported. Each SKU can have many different types of currencies associated with it, but you can only add one per import operation. If you have multiple currencies in the same spreadsheet, you will have to repeat this step multiple times. After selecting a currency, we move on to the import fields, where the imported data is mapped to a field. Here you can select which column of this price sheet should be used to define the SKUs and which should be used for the pricing. The sample box shows the value that is defined within the first row of the sheet, which can help determine which column should be mapped for SKUs or prices. After the import fields have been set, you can click Import to complete this step. If you don't see the imported SKUs appear right away, refresh the page. It is important to note that the importer has some difficulty with importing a very large data set. A good rule of thumb is to never have more than 8 or 700 rows within a single CSV file. An important thing to mention is that if you import a file that contains SKUs that have already been imported before, then only the price values are used and updated in the existing SKU entry. This means you don't need to delete all SKUs before importing a new iteration of your price sheet. In addition to bulk uploading SKUs via price sheets, you can manually add single SKUs to a price group by clicking on the Add button on the top right of the screen. Here you can prove the exact SKU pattern that should be checked against the models in the scene and assign a price value to it. If you add SKUs manually like this, it is very likely that you will need to clear the product's cache in order for the price to actually show up within the product configurator. To clear the cache of your product, you can make a slight alteration to the product name, just like this. Save the product, and then change the name back to what it previously was, and save again. Alternatively, we can head back to the catalog and change the state of the product to inactive and then active again. Next up, I would also like to mention SKU pricing for material options. Inside the Material Group tab, it is possible to assign SKUs to individual materials. Whenever a SKU that is part of the material group is loaded within the scene, it will have a combined SKU of the SKU node from the 3D hierarchy and the SKU that was defined for the material. Within the assignment file, the material group that is defined to change the material for the tablecloth is placed within the SKU node tablecloth. If we alter the SKU field within one of the material options of that material group to, for example, red, then when the tablecloth SKU is active and the material in which the SKU field has been altered is selected, that SKU value will become tablecloth red, meaning that a combination of both the option and the material will be combined. If there is no exact match for this SKU within the price group, it does not add anything to the total price of the scene. It is also possible to link an operable number input attribute to a SKU, so that we are able to multiply the SKU price according to the value defined within the operable attribute. We can start by creating an operable number attribute. Go into our product, configure, attributes, add an operable, name it accordingly, and add the attribute. Go over to Edit, scroll down to the operand section and add a new operand. Now save your changes. Next up, we're going to price matrix, our price group, and then edit the SKU that we want to link to the operable number input. Change this over to unit and select the operable number input attribute. And save your changes. As I showed the product before without pricing, after all the adjustments made within the backend, it now shows the prices according to the price sheet. So if we select a few of these options, you can see the price is increasing. So just to conclude the session of today, I want to talk to you about some common practices and additional information in regards to SKU pricing. Nesting geometry underneath the SKU node is very important. If you don't do this, there is a chance that the empty SKU component is not properly deleted when you delete or re-upload a 3D file, which will result in a duplicate SKUs, thus double prices. Material group SKU combination. SKUs that are being defined within your hierarchy can be combined with SKUs that are being defined within the material option to form a combined SKU. Unique SKU. If you have an SKU that appears multiple times but you only want to charge a price once, you can tick the unique box of individual SKUs within the price group. You can do this by heading over to the price group, select any SKU, and check this box. As I was showing before, it's also possible to link an SKU price with an operable number input, which basically allows the SKU price to be multiplied according to the input within the operable. You can add SKUs manually. This will be treated the same as an SKU that was imported through a sheet and can also be updated afterwards through a sheet. This also goes the other way around. You can manually edit values of SKUs that were added through a sheet. You can simply do this by clicking on the Add button, give this SKU a unique pattern, add a base price, and save. Also, a very important topic is testing the SKU prices you've created to make sure you've implemented your changes correctly. You will be able to test the SKU prices within the configured product. So if I now move over to some of the options that will include a price, we can see that the price is already adding up. Now if we head over to Inspect, hit the console panel, and right now I am pasting a command within the console panel, which basically shows me a list of all the active SKUs within the scene. I will provide you with this code within the assignment documentation, so you will be able to test it yourselves. If I hit enter right now, you can see a list of the active SKUs, so that's all positive, and we can see over here that we have activated a cocktail glass, a wine glass, and the tablecloth SKU. If we expand this by clicking on it, we can see that the price SKU is tablecloth blue, and this is exactly the option that we've selected as well. Also, a very important note on importing larger price sheets is that there is a limit in the amount of rows that can be imported at once. If we look at the price sheet that was being used for this assignment, I would say this is a rather small price list. It only contains up to 7 SKUs and 7 base prices. So as you can imagine, there might be a project in which hundreds or maybe thousands of SKUs and base prices should be imported. Now, within the Expivi backend, there is a limitation that only allows you to import 700 to 800 rows of information at once. So keep into account that when you're dealing with larger price sheets, divide them up into sections of 700 to 800 rows in order to avoid the issue of not importing your prices and SKUs. Just a quick reminder to refresh your page after bulk importing a price list, as you won't be able to see the base prices and SKUs imported. One final mention of FBX file containing SKU nodes. When importing a new file containing SKU information, please make sure to choose the only explicit part SKU suffix option within the SKU dialog and import the file accordingly. This prevents the SKU node from possibly affecting material groups that were not intended to be part of the SKU. With all of this information, you should be able to finish the assignment that is provided alongside this tutorial. Thank you for taking the time to look at this tutorial and increase your knowledge on our platform. See you in our next session.